Hey guys, Brandon here with Berserker Off-Road. Today, I'm excited to share with you my final review of TreadWright's Guard Dog tires. TreadWright tires are not retreads, they're remolded tires. They take an old tire carcass that already has 30 or 40,000 miles on it, they inspect it for imperfections, fix any minor defects, and then they shave it off down to just the belts, the carcass of the tire. And then they do a bead to bead remolding process where they wrap it in rubber all the way around. The sidewall, around the treads, the back sidewall. So all that is wrapped in a new layer of rubber, and then they vulcanize it with a brand new tread pattern. So the whole thing is basically a new tire that's molded to an old tire carcass. So the inside is an old tire, but the tread that's all new all the way around. So there are no seams per se in the rubber. Now, you might have some little blocks in the different tread patterns or some different kind of gaps between the plates, but overall, it's not just a simple tread that's glued on. This is a whole new tire that is remolded onto an old tire carcass. So again, it is a recycled tire with new tread all the way around it. Before I give you my Guard Dog review, it's important I share with you my history with TreadWright tires. There are details in the backstory that affect how these tires performed for me. So a year ago, TreadWright asked me in exchange for a set of tires if I would review them on my YouTube channel. So I said, sure, why not? I decided to run their MT Claw 2s. I'd seen a lot of their Guard Dogs on the internet, but not a lot of their MT Claw 2s. So I wanted to run those and see what they were like. They were an aggressive tread pattern, and I thought they'd be fantastic off-road. So I said, send me a set of those and I'll try them out. So they sent me a set of those 35s last year, and I ran them on my Jeep. I took them to Kansas Rocks, I took them to S'more, eventually I took them to Moab. And I loved those tires off-road. They were fantastic. Those big knobby tread blocks just bit into anything that was in front of them. Those the rocks, the mud, anything. They were unstoppable, except for the highway. They were a horrible ride on the highway, just pitiful. The first time I had them on, they made a lot of wumpy noise, a wump, 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 wump. I had them mounted and balanced 3 times, and I just could not get them to balance until finally a tire tech said, hey, these tires, they're not round. And sure enough, I looked at them, they were like an egg when they were rolling on the Jeep, and so that was causing these vibrations. And I just could not stand it on the road. When I drove 1,000 miles to and from Moab, by the time I got home, my wrists were numb from the steering wheel shaking back and forth so much for 14 hours. I just could not stand the road or the ride on the highway, which is really unfortunate because off-road, those tires were just fantastic. But again, on the highway, I could not stand it. So after my Moab trip, I took them off. I had a trip coming up with my family to Colorado, and it was not worth it to me, even though those tires were free, to run them on my Jeep to Colorado with my family. I did not want to go through that ride again, so I took them off. My Jeep, I do daily drive it. I drive it 40 miles every day on the highway to and from work. So that's a lot of highway miles. Running big tires, big off-road tires, it's harder on your suspension on the street. When you're off-road and you have, dirt and stuff, that it's easier on the joints because there's a little bit of play on the ground. But on the concrete, those tires, they are not moving from that asphalt. And so any little imperfections has to be absorbed by your suspension. So that was a problem I was running into, where the tires, they were just hard on the Jeep. So before my Colorado trip, I took my Jeep to 4x4 lane in Topeka, Kansas. And I had Mike Starkbaum go through it and make sure everything was working. He ended up replacing ball joints and a unit bearing. He also aligned the Jeep, so made sure everything was perfect. So he went through my Jeep, made sure everything was in perfect working order, and then I took it to Colorado. I was on my KO2s, I wheeled it in Colorado, had a great time. A month later, I took my Jeep to Ozark National Forest, and I was there for 3 days, had a great time exploring the woods, but both of those trips were on my KO2s. And when I got back, TreadWright, they reached out to me. They said, hey, Brandon, we noticed you're not on our tires, you're on your KO2s. And I said, well, I had a lot of trouble with those MT Claw 2s. I didn't want those on the highway anymore. And they said, okay, how about we send you another set of tires? And I said, all right, I'll give them a shot again, because they're willing to work with me. So they sent me a set of their Guard Dogs, same size, the 35 by 12.5 R 17-inch tire, and I had those mounted on the Jeep. They were mounted at 4-wheel parts. They were mounted and balanced there, and they said they were hard to do or hard to balance, but they did get them balanced. When I first drove those tires, I was very worried that I was going to have the same problems that I did with the Claw 2s. In fact, I released an initial or first impressions video, and in that video you can see me getting on the highway where I was very nervous I was going to have the same problems that I did with the Claw 2s. So I get on the highway, and the ride's great. They're not wobbling, they're not humming, it's just a perfect ride. It was fantastic, just a great tire. But after 6 months and 6,000 miles, things fell apart. In a year, I put 12,000 miles on my Jeep on TreadWright tires, 6,000 on the MT Claw 2s, 6,000 on the Guard Dogs. After that year, my steering was shot. I had to tighten up my steering box, I had to replace my drag link, I had to replace both of my tie rod ends, I had to replace my steering stabilizer, I had to replace my unit bearings, and I had to replace my ball joints twice. So my dilemma is, did my MT Claw 2s pre-wear my steering before I even got my Guard Dogs on? I think I did. That's why I told you that backstory, so you knew the troubles I had with the previous set of tires. And I think those pre-wore my steering, and then when I got the Guard Dogs on, that continued the accelerated wear of my steering. In my first impressions video, I told you about when I had my Guard Dogs mounted and balanced. The tire techs at 4 Wheel Parts said that they were shaking in the tire machines, and they took a lot of weight to balance. So I know the Guard Dogs weren't perfect going in. And when I got those on the Jeep, I think they continued the wear of the steering, causing me to have to replace so many of my steering components. Now, at 6,000 miles, when I've had enough of the steering issues, I took my Jeep back to 4 Wheel Parts, and they said when they mounted and balanced the tires again, that the tires were off by up to 8 ounces. You know, that's a ½ pound of lopsided weight, you know, shaking around already after only 6,000 miles. So what I'm struggling with is, you know, my worn steering, how much did that affect the Guard Dogs, and how much did the poor Guard Dogs affect my steering? And I think it was just a feedback where one kept making the other worse, kept making the other worse. Another thing is the tire hum. When I first had the tires on, they were quiet, they were great. Now, listen to this. So what do I think of the TreadWright Guard Dog tires? Off-road, they're incredible. Remember that the carcasses have 30 or 40,000 miles on them. So when you air them down, they have this nice bulge to them. The tread pattern really spreads out, and it wraps around rocks like a pillow even. You know, it just envelops anything in its path and just grips for maximum traction. In the mud, the nice thick tread blocks, they really push through the muck to get to the solid stuff at the bottom of the mud to propel you forward. So, you know, rocks and mud, they are just incredible off-road. But on the highway, that is what kills it for me. It's just still too rough for me. I've had too many problems trying to get these tires mounted and balanced, and then the wear on my steering, it's just not worth it to me to run these tires and to continue to wear my steering down like this. TreadWright's an American company. They're based in Texas. They employ a lot of Americans down there, and they've recycled tires. There's a lot of things I like about TreadWright. I really want these tires to work, but at the end of the day, they're just not for me, and that's okay. I've switched to overlanding. I need a tire that's more suitable for long distances on the road or longer trails, that's easier on the suspension components, that's not as aggressive because I need the longevity out of the tire. And so TreadWright tires, I don't think are for me. Now, if you're the kind of guy that loads your rig up on a trailer, goes down to a rock park and thrashes around, hey, that's great. These tires are perfect for you. You got the most traction for your buck with these TreadWright tires. And honestly, I wouldn't bother with the Warden. I'd go straight to the MT Claw 2 or the Guard Dog. Both are fantastic. I would err on the side of the Guard Dog if you need to do some driving. Get the MT Claw 2 if you just want the maximum amount of traction from these TreadWright tires. It's an awesome, awesome tire off-road. So is the Guard Dog. The Warden, I've wheeled with a guy who had the Wardens, and they were great. He said he didn't have any issues with the tires. They're good off-road, just not as strong in the rocks as the MT Claw 2 or the Guard Dog. Another person I know who had the Wardens, he had trouble with the tread blocks when they were remolded. There were little steps between the tread blocks. So he had to go through a few tires with TreadWright before he found tires that were actually shaped well. So that's something to be aware of. Again, with these tires, is you run the risk of getting defective or deformed tires. So though the tires are cheaper, you may make that money up in the long run going to tire shops or wearing down your suspension and steering prematurely. So keep that in mind. I want to thank TreadWright for the opportunity to review their tires. To my viewers out there, I hope you consider them, and if so, I hope your experiences are better than mine. I think it's a fantastic product, it just wasn't right for me. If you do get those tires, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what your experiences are, if they work for you or if you had issues. You know, I think as a community, it'd be great to know what all of our experiences are with these tires. Thanks for watching. See you on the trail.